A lot of artists recently have been exposed publicly on Twitter for either tracing AI or using AI in their process, and this is a similar situation, but a bit different in which the artists themselves came out with it first. So this all kind of kicks off with this post by user Crazy Snuffed or C Snuffed, and they put out this giant post January 24th, writing, "Good afternoon. I'm not looking for applause or for anybody to take my side. I just want to be clear and responsible to say what's true. There are probably already rumors that I use AI. And yes, that's not a lie, but they don't tell the whole story." I was trying to look into like the rumors / where the start of this came, and from what I was able to gather, and this could be like completely off the mark, but around this time, a bunch of artists on Twitter were being exposed for using AI. I've made videos about a couple of them. I don't know what order they're going to be posted in, but another one was an artist named Helicopter Foods or Kuru who possibly faked the speed paint by drawing a monitor over their speed paint drawing. It was weird, but in this time, another artist was being called out. And in that thread, C Stuff's name was also tossed into the ring, where people were like, oh, this person's using AI. By the way, this other artist, C Snuff, I think they're also using it. So that's where I saw like a first mention of this. I don't know if there was an official call out post. I couldn't find it if that was the case. And again, don't send hate to any parties involved, please. So C Stuff continues, "I used it only as a reference for rendering techniques along with real world references. All the line art and sketches are completely mine. When I reached a more detailed render, I needed guides, references, and that's when AI came in. It is not an excuse, it's the truth. I admit that letting it cloud my judgment was a mistake. It made me feel that nothing I did was enough, and the more I tried to look perfect, the more it resembled an AI render, without actually being one. That weighed on me so much that I ended up working only in flat color until I couldn't anymore. I know how to render, but digital results were consuming me, so I am taking a hiatus. I'll go back to traditional methods, detach from that obsession, and look for a new rendering style that is truly mine. If you feel disappointed, if you decide to step away, I understand and respect it. But the difference is that I won't run. I'll face it. And for those who've commissioned work from me, everything has been legitimate, handmade. If you believe otherwise, you have the right to a refund. In the end, this isn't about AI or techniques. It's about integrity. And even if the world wants you to hide your mistakes, I prefer to walk with them, because that's where what truly matters is born. Again, I apologize. I'll work hard to improve. I'm grateful to those who chose to stay, and I respect those who step away. But remember this, truth and honesty aren't always popular, but they're the only things that leave something that truly lasts." And other people are saying things like, return to your roots, man. You can actually draw. Using AI makes it so you demean yourself in one way or another. It makes you feel powerlessly useless. Quote, "The machine can do it better than I will," end quote. It leads to that defeatist mindset. You're sinking into that, bro. And attached are apparently examples of their old work. Here, some more examples of old work. They can draw, and they can draw well. And other people are saying like, I support artistic endeavors, and like, I appreciate your honesty, and I'm glad you came forward and spoke out about this. And other people are like, anti-AI people are so annoying. I don't care if you used AI. I like your work, so I would still pay for it. Now, here's where it gets a little more dicey, because another account came out with a post on the same day, and it reads, quote, "But they don't tell the whole story. I used it only as a reference for rendering techniques," end quote. But that's not the whole story either. You have traced AI. I have the Clip Studio Paint files you shared with a friend, after you also lied to his face that you weren't using AI as a reference here. I suppose in reference to this piece. So they add a Dropbox link with the Clip Studio Paint files they sent to their friend. They've included screenshots for those that don't have Clip Studio Paint and other things. And they add, "Sorry to do this. This is for your audience that was given sugar-coated damage control rather than the whole picture." There is some stuff in here. The first one we have is a README doc, which basically highlights a bunch of points. One, if AI is a tool, if he's tracing it, who cares? And they highlight the fact that this is for the people who he took money from. And personally, I feel like that's the thing at the end of the day. There are people who care about AI tracing, and there's people who do not. There's people who, as long as they like the art, if you've traced AI, if you've traced somebody else's work, they don't care. The big thing is the transparency of it. And thankfully, they came out, with their side of the story, and they admitted to doing it to, I guess, some extent, right? But like, there are going to be a lot of people that don't want to commission an artist if they found out art was traced. Again, there's people who don't care, but it's that, like, There are accounts on Twitter who are just shameless like AI repost accounts. All they do is generate images, post it, and they have a Patreon where you can monetize. I completely disagree with that. I don't support Gen AI, but at least they were transparent about it. So if you subscribe to their Patreon, you know what you're getting, which is generated images. So there is no deception in that regard. I still think it's unethical though. The other side though is like stuff like this where it's not disclosed until way later. So people who bought it thought they were getting work that was made without AI assistance. Now, the artist also emphasizes that everything is still handmade, but that isn't really the issue here because most of these AI deception artists, AI as part of their process, but the full image was not AI generated, if that makes sense. Like a lot of them will generate an AI image, trace that AI image, and color everything in themselves. So they say it's handmade, but it was made off the back of still stolen artwork. So I don't think the handmade argument really flies here, but I guess technically it is true. It was handmade. This is the main commission that was in question, the Last of Us art trade, right? Where you can see this is their OC and we have another character here. And it was mentioned that there is a trash bin here. So if we hide this, we turn on the trash bin. There's a folder called Roxy references. And if we open this, we scroll down. Oh, what's this? PixAI-media _ really long number sequence with an AI generated image. There's multiple actually, there's another one, unless this is like maybe the same one but smaller. And we have these called Kappa 10, Kappa 11, Kappa 15, right? These are all different AI generated images of the same pose. So as you can see here, a lot of these references are AI generated. Now, this is a speed paint that was also in one of the Clip Studio Paint files. And according to the note written here, conveniently the speed paint starts when the body is already like half rendered, which is interesting. Maybe they forgot to turn the speed paint feature on because unlike Procreate, it is a button you have to click. It doesn't auto record. But the theory the note says is that they suspect that the color drop method is used to color in this piece. And what that's referring to is basically, you know, when you take the AI image, you go to a certain part of the AI image, you color select it, you go to your image and you color in a little bit. You go back, you color select, you go back, you color in. This is what I refer to as the paint by numbers coloring method, which some people were like, wait, what did you mean by this? Like a paint by numbers kit is something like this, right? Where you have an image and then you have like spots where the color goes and then you get paints with numbers on it. It's like a coloring book that tells you where it's supposed to go and then you get like a finished product out of it. But you literally like, okay, if it says number 19, I'm gonna grab the brown and then fill it in here. Like that is what some, I don't know about this person's process, but that's what some of these AI tracers, that's what they do. Because they don't know how to render in that style because they're borrowing the style by like copying it, right? So they like take the AI image, they color select, I don't know, the color of the forehead. They go to their art, right, where they've like traced the body and they like, okay, here's the forehead. I'm gonna color it in with this color. Okay, now I'm gonna go and select the color next to it. I'm gonna go back, color in a little bit more. So you're putting colors down without any like logic as to why the color was chosen. It's like, oh, because this image right here has this color, I put it here. Not because like, oh, well, because the character's standing in the sun, well, they're going to have like an orangey glow on their skin from the sun. So that's why I'm going to use this color, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what the note alleges is like happening here with the coloring, where they're saying that it's like selecting one color, putting it down, selecting one color, putting it down. Where you can see some of that happening with the leg here, where they're kind of like coloring things in a very like paint by numbers-esque way with like really small brush strokes, and then they'll go and blend it out. Some people do draw like this. Like if somebody's like, I don't know, like an oil painter and they later move to digital art, they might have this method of painting because it's something that transpired from their experience as an oil painter. So just because you paint like this doesn't mean you've used AI. But like, I mean, in this case, they did admit to referencing AI, so we already have that smoking gun there. Now, the final thing that was noted is this piece in question, because this is an example of them tracing their own work, where here we have this image that's clearly a hand-drawn traditional piece that they've later lined over. So we see an example of how tracing their own work looks like. This is what the image posted by this user sketch adds, right? Where again, this was the original drawing. And here we have some extra details. We have layers again with literally the PixAI name on it, where it adds layer names contain imported file names. Snuffed is using PixAI's Mika LORA. So here we have like branches disappearing, all these AI generated reference images. So this is one other thing to add before we expand more into this, is the fact that potentially, likely, that this user Crazy Stuff is also a victim as well, possibly, because in PixAI, you can make LORAs of people's like art styles and whatever, which is really messed up to do without permission. Now, Mika is Crazy Snuff's OC, and there is a bunch of Mika LORAs that exist on PixAI. What this is alleging is that the artist is using essentially the AIs generated off of their own art to then generate more. So this notes the LORA will be removed without notice if requested by the artist, where apparently there's a disclaimer that it can be taken down upon request. Crazy Snuff has never done so. So this again is like 50-50, right? Because like, did this artist make the LORA themselves? Did this artist unfortunately have somebody feed their art into Pixiv and somebody else made a LORA using their own artwork, unfortunately? Maybe they didn't know you could request to take it down, but trying to give some benefit of doubt, right? But this notes regenerations. You can tell by the same posing, just different veneer. This is proof you have the ability to reprompt versus stumbling onto a reference photo online, not knowing it was AI and using it. In that case, you will be using a one-off generation, not part of a set. So what this is basically referring to is like, from my knowledge, you could take like an image and then reprompt for variations of that same image, I guess, right? Because like these two images are pretty similar, but they're not one-to-one, but they're pretty close, right? It reads to me as if the accusation is that C Snuff themselves generated these images to use as references / to trace from. Because why do they all look so similar, but yet slightly different, right? If you happen to find one posted on Pinterest and you yoink that one, you probably would not end up with like, multiples of the image that all look conveniently somewhat similar. So in October 29, 2024, he found the LORA, well, the first one that was made, I guess, off of his OC. So this is their real art style. And then December 31st, 2024, there is a complete change in their rendering and shapes. From their old art, this is their new art. And this is, again, their real art style, which looks a lot more flat in terms of the rendering, which is not a bad thing. That's just what the rendering looks like, with like kind of more sketchy brush used for like line work here. And it knows December 1st, 2025, change in fundamentals. It's more than a simplified doodle style. The face shape is different. You can't forget your bias for what's right to draw in terms of volumetric planes. And the free run angle is harder than the 3/4 angle. And another person adds, I think we can agree that using AI for learning isn't something to criticize because you're learning with it. But I've heard you're selling them high commissions without telling them it's been processed by AI, which is annoying. And here you can see, like, it's basically been traced off the AI, which is more than just the referencing that was being referred to. I don't necessarily agree with the using AI for learning isn't something to criticize. Gen AI images are stolen from actual artists. But beyond that, if you don't care about the ethics of stealing versus not stealing, it's not great to learn from, to be honest, because a lot of times the anatomy is wrong because it's generating things oddly. The lighting is wrong because it lights characters and things with no rhyme or reason. A lot of AI generated images are very shiny and very well lit and highlighted until you think for like 2 seconds and it's like, wait, where is the light source in this image? And you realize there's a light source, like, I don't know, between their legs, under their armpit, above their head, and like behind them somehow, which is why it's not like the greatest tool to learn from, because it's not drawing things with like the foresight, the anatomy knowledge, the lighting knowledge, etc., that like professional artists will learn from. Most people who study artwork will study off of professional experienced artists. Don't ever trace and post it as and claim it as their own, but they'll be like, oh, this is like a mangaka that I really love and respect who draws this really, really well. This is what I admire about their art style. I love the essence of this. Let me learn from their experience. And other people are saying, well, it's not a big deal because like AI is wrong, but like they didn't commit like a crime. They didn't like murder anybody. So, and they took accountability, so it should be fine. And like big props to this person for coming out publicly and owning up to what they did, right? Because like a lot of artists just deny / lie about it until they get caught like knees deep, elbows deep doing it. And then it all goes to hell. So the fact they owned up for it and they said that they're gonna go and like learn their art style again and do traditional work, I respect them for that. I respect them for coming out about it. But I mean, it is a scam, right? If you are masquerading as an artist on Coffee, asking for donations to help support you, And part of your process isn't legitimate. You're tracing off of generated works. There's people who don't care, but there are people who do care. So by not disclosing this up until this point, there were so many people who commissioned this person for X amount of money that thought they were getting works that were completely handmade. And again, they were arguing, well, it is handmade because like all the brushstrokes were done by me. Handmade is referring to the fact that like you did the process from start to finish all yourself and that AI was not involved in the process. Tracing over AI works and stuff like that, that means Gen AI is in this process. So there's that. The final thing though that is a bit ironic, there was this post by a user Tian, talking about an artist who allegedly was AI generating works and claiming they made it themselves. And C Snuff had actually responded writing and people in January found that comment. And then the original poster writes, well, seems like your time has caught up for using AI this whole time. So what are your thoughts at the end of the day? Do you think it's considered a deception if something like this were to happen? Or do you think it's not that bad, it's not that big of a deal? I'm just curious about your thoughts. Don't send hate to any parties involved. That's not what this is about. At least they came forward and they admitted to it. That's a lot more than what a lot of other people have done. So they've learned from it. So if you like this video, I appreciate it. If you like and subscribe, don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide, and I stream on Twitch 3 days a week. Mondays, I've moved my Wednesdays now to Thursdays, and Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. Thursday is 7:30. So I hope to catch y'all there or in another video. Peace.